All right. Is it about time to us where we were popping over to Scott's
We're gonna
house?
go. Yeah, we're gonna go to Wisconsin for a demo tonight. So, no further ado, let's pop over to Scott Tague and see what he's got on store for us.
You
Hey,
got the
Scott,
button. You can mute everybody, and folks, if you want to ask a question, tell them, Dane. Tell them the rules.
tell him the rules. So, Scott's demo, he's gonna demonstrate his little project tonight the way he turns it. At the conclusion of the demo, if you got questions and comments on how to do things, let's save those questions and comments for the end of the demo. And so without further ado, I'm going to mute everybody. And Scott, you need to unmute yourself. Muting everybody now.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Oh, that means my headset is working.
Yes.
So we're going to do, you can see this. This is a whiskey bottle stopper. Eddie wanted to do some bottle stoppers, but this one's a special bottle stopper. It's also a shot glass.
Oh, cool.
So you can carry your whiskey bottle with you and drink your own shots out of your own stopper.
Interesting.
So it was something I came up with on my own. I've never seen anybody else do this. Just one of those late night dumb ideas. So that actually worked on a couple tries. So this one holds 2 shots. This little red one holds 1 shot. So it's all dependent on how long you make your blank and how deep you drill the hole. So let's get started. I'm going to set these aside so they don't roll off onto the floor. So when I start with a rectangular, actually a handle blank that I cut to the length that I want. The long ones I cut to 3 inches. The short ones I cut to 2 1/4 inches for the one-shotters. Then I draw an X on the end. I don't know how well you can see that. Just to get it centered in. I put a center mark on the end just so that you can get it trued up in your chuck. So when you go to drill this now, you're drilling somewhat in the center of this blank. It doesn't really matter because you got enough material. This is a 1.5 by 1.5 blank. You got enough material to make the shot glass without making the walls too thin. So at that point, all I use this center for is just to find the center as I'm chucking it up. I got this one tightened in already. Just verify that I tightened it in and it's good and tight. I'm going to take this out, slide this back. I like to put inserts in mine. I like to have them so they unscrew. I don't know why, but that's just the way I like to do them. You can do them however you want. You could thread it if you wanted to. I just find that I don't have as much problem if I use a stainless steel insert, which I get my stuff from Carl Jacobson, which used to be Ruth Niles. So then I also have what they call stubby drill bits. You get a lot less flex with these, and they drill a truer hole than a standard length drill bit, just because they're short and you can chuck them short. I'm going to chuck this up in here now. Make sure it's tight. And on my new jet lathe, you got this beautiful new index spindle. And I run the drill bit up tight and then set 0 on my index so that I can set the depth of my drill. These inserts are about 5/8 of an inch. And I drill the hole to 3/4 to 7/8 of an inch. This one I don't have drilled, but normally I drill a little hole in the end of these to relieve the air pressure. Otherwise, they like to squirt back out when you epoxy them in. This is a 7/16 drill bit, which is exactly the same size as this insert. And you have to pound these in when you go to put them in. And I'll show that in a few minutes. So now I'm going to drill this. I got this on. I'm going to drill this at about 220 RPMs. I find that this resin drills real nice at around 220 RPM, plus or minus a little. Anytime you're drilling resin, you want to back it out, clear it out as you go. It's as easy as that. So is there any other questions before I go on to the next step?
No, there isn't.
By drilling that slow, you don't even get heat in the drill bit. This drill bit is actually cold, room temperature, which is really nice.
That lake is so clean. I thought you were at Cade Boger's place.
Well, this is only the fourth thing that's ever been turned on it, so it's pretty new. So now, don't do like I did earlier today and forget to face this off on the end before you turn it around. It's a lot easier to do it now. Well, I'm going to use carbide today just because I like using carbide on resin. Seems to work a little better for me. You know, a lot of you guys would probably use a bowl gouge or a skew or your tool of choice. Get this around. Or turn this back on. Now I'm going to turn this up to about 1800, between 16 and 1800. I'm just going to face this off. We got the tool rest too low.
Hey, Scott, real quick, what kind of blank is that?
That is acrylic resin from Wood River or Woodcraft.
Okay.
It's just a handle blank.
All day. I would just run in a small town and
And all I did was flatten that off now, just to make it easier. I'm just going to give it a light sanding with a little block here. Little block. gonna polish this end a little bit. Which I'm gonna do about 500 or so. Just gonna give it a little polish. Take out any tool marks that could be there. And then I'm going to use a little, this plastic, this is McGuire's plastic finish. Dan, I believe it's Dan Smith told me about this from the club here, and it works really well. I am rather amazed. I'm just going to carefully put this on without hitting my fingers on those points. You don't have to go real fast. I don't know if you guys could see that, but that's smooth and it's just as shiny as can be.
By largely, all the buttons just right.
You know, my hole. Now I'm gonna mix up a little epoxy for you. And everybody knows how to mix epoxy, I'm sure. I use 5-minute epoxy and I do this the night before. I let my epoxy sit for 24 hours. I just find that I have less issues with it later. I got that mixed up good. Take this out of the truck now because I don't like pounding on the bearings on my lathe. Now we're just gonna, so I've made an adapter to put this in with. This is a driver, it's just a 3/8 bolt that screws onto the piece. Smear some epoxy in here. I'm taking, push that in as much as I can by hand. Take this over the legs of my lathe because it's a little more solid. I'm just going to tap this in. You're all set. Then I just unthread this. Clean up any epoxy if there's any on there. And I inset it just a little bit, just so I know that the stopper will sit flush on the plastic. So now you go back to one of the other ones that I got started, and we'll try turning one of those. So at this point, you can be done with your regular chuck. I'm going to go to a mandrel now that I got from Ruth Niles, and I'll show you some alternatives. So if you notice, my chucks come off real easy. This is an old machinist trick that I learned a long time ago from my dad and a few other guys that were machinists. You take a little nylon washer you can buy at the hardware store. It fits up tight against your outside collar. You put that on. when you go to put your chuck on, it'll screw up. You can get it tight, but you can always break it loose without having a great big wrench to get it off, which is kind of nice if you have inserts in your chucks. Then you don't have to worry about them coming off or coming out if you don't like using the set screws. We were talking earlier about the old rod trucks. These are just for demo purposes. I don't use these very often. But if you don't have Bruce Niles stopper, you can make your own. So this is just a bolt that I got threaded to 3/8, and I just put it in here. You basically created your own chuck, sort of. Your own spindle, whatever you want to call this. I have 2 of these. This is just another version. This I bought off of Amazon, I think. I'm not sure where I got it from, but it does the same thing. It's already threaded on the end. So, and if you buy some of these bottle stoppers that are from other places, they may not be 3/8, so they may not work on Bruce Niles' bottle stopper rig. So you'll have to make your own bolts at some point if you buy the cheap generic Penn State and some of these off Chinese brands. This is the one I use here. Just gonna thread this on. Washer fell down. So this is an adapter. I had to adapt from my 1.25" to my 1 inch because this is a 1 inch and I wasn't going to buy a new one of these. I'm cheap. So let's do this blue one. So last night I glued this blue one in. And you can see that I got resin on the bottom. I'll clean that off later. It's not a big deal. I'm going to screw this on here. You want to make sure the seat's all the way to the bottom and it's good and tight. And tight. I'm going to put my tailstock back on. You guys are going to ask me what drill bit size this is, so I got to look. So I don't remember. Yeah. So I'm going to drill this hole at 29/32, which is just under an inch. Grab the right stuff here. Now I'm going to drill the center hole before I do anything else. I've found you have less cracking when you do it this way. If you build too much heat in these resin, it likes to crack, or acrylic, whichever you're using. Resin's worse than acrylic. It tends to crack more. I'll run this up here. Crank this out a little. Run this up here. Lock that down. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but on this drill bit, I got a black magic marker mark. That'll tell me when to stop this drill bit. Now I'm going to drill this at around 200 RPMs as well. stay at that slower speed with this short drill bit like this, it cuts pretty well. To keep this drill bit sharp, this is the only thing it gets used for. If you go get the feed rate right, you don't have to do a lot of polishing on the inside. Again, back it out, clean off the ribbons. Just gonna check this to make sure I didn't hit the insert. It shouldn't have, but no. So I didn't hit the insert. It grabbed a little on the bottom. I was worried to hit the insert, so I'm gonna stop a little short. And that's all there is for drilling. Any questions so far? And this is pretty smooth inside. It isn't going to take much to polish this once I get to that point. Good
No
on
questions
questions?
so far, Scott. No questions.
Okay.
That twist drill does a good job of making a nice clean hole compared to a Forstner bit, doesn't it?
Yes. Then the other thing I like about it, and I can show that maybe in one of these other ones, is it leaves a nice tapered bottom. See that? There we go. Leaves a nice bottom, and it's usually pretty smooth, so you don't have to worry about trying to get it smooth in the bottom. It's hard to sand the bottom.
Right.
I haven't found a real good way of doing it, so a lot of times I don't even hardly sand the bottom. I just polish it and leave the lines in it if there's any lines in it. Whoever's drinking out of the shot glass, by the time they get to the second or third shot out of this double, they're not going to care if there's lines in the bottom.
Amen.
How do you know how deep to drill it?
Okay, that was by trial and error. And the trial was I was pouring shots in it, and the error was I was drinking them. So I would take a shot glass. I have shot glasses in the house that are singles and doubles, and I would pour them in there until I got to the depth I wanted. So it took me a couple days to get the right depth, obviously, because I wasn't drinking and running the machine at the same time. Just a little disclaimer. I did it by volume, Dad.
Did you drink all those shots?
Yeah, I had a few. Tequila is my friend. Hell, the next day. So at that point, I used the shot glass to find the bottom, Gary. If not to be a smarty pants.
I only use a 2-fingered shot.
Right. So now I'm going to put a little support in there, just because I like to do it that way. So I got these little Nerf balls in the kids section at Walmart.
Good idea.
So you can get, I don't know, I got a package of they're actually called mini balls for playing hockey, yard hockey. has 6 of them in here for like $4 or $5. So you have lots of extras if you wreck one. And they work really nice once you get them chewed up a little bit to fit in the end of these shot glasses, and I use it for other things. You can see that it's all chewed up. And just stick it in the end. This is just a live center that I've taken the point out of. Taking the point out of it, and I'm just using the cup of it. I'm just going to run that up there. Put just a little bit of pressure on it till I see the ball squeeze and tighten it off. Another nice thing about using these balls, if you hit them with your tools, they just shred. You don't have to worry about marring them up if you use something else. So I like to run my carbides at about center line of the lathe. I'm going to start out with a square one. Pull my round one over here. I'm going to start out with a square one to knock the edges off, the corners off. I'm just going to put safety glasses on. I should wear a face shield, but they don't fit over my headset, so I'll stand off to the side and be careful. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to spin this up to about 1600 to 1700 RPMs. Make sure everything's good and tight as I'm watching it. Start here. I don't come in right on the end. I come in just a little off the end. Second thought, I'm going to take my headset off for a few minutes. Well, I just changed this cutter and put a new one on, and it, when all else fails, when you're doing a demo, it had to loosen up. Now I got to find the wrench. Put it in here. Where'd it go? Hang on,
I can
I'll
tell
be
you
right
where
back.
mine is at.
I know where. I just had this one. I just changed it while we were talking in the meeting. And I put it back in the drawer, and I found the old cutter. Where'd the wrench go? The gremlin got it. You know, that's all right. I got more wrenches, so that's not a problem. Don't knock the computer over.
If that's the worst thing that happened, just sitting pretty.
That's the first time I ever had one of these loosen up. Usually I don't have that problem. I'm going to take my headset back off again until I get this round, because those chips hurt on my face. So
Yeah.
if you got questions, hold on to them for a minute. I basically made it round. I don't know if you guys could hear through the mic when it started to get round. You could tell that it was getting round. It starts to give you streamers like this when it starts to get round. So, or when it's not round, it gives you chips like this. They're cutting, but it's chips. And this stuff is a mess. It'll be all over your shop when you get going here. So I like to leave mine a little big on the bottom. I don't make them right to the size of the bottle stopper. You can if you want to. I like to take them off sometimes and put the stopper back in the bottle, and then use the shot glass as a shot glass, set it on the table. So I leave my bottoms a little big. That's entirely up to you. And I do it all by eye. I don't measure it. You can if you want to replicate them, but I try not to make things that are all exactly the same. That way people can tell when you're selling them that they're handmade. So at this point, I'm going to switch from the square negative rake, which is what I started with. Right here. This is what I started with. Square negative rake. Now I'm going to switch to the round to do my shaping on the outside. And then we'll do a little shaping on the inside, a little sanding and polishing, and we'll be done. This is a pretty quick, fast project and a big mess.
Tear it up.
I'm just going to round this corner off on the bottom ever so slightly. Then I'm just going to give this a little shape. You can see the streamers I'm getting. The round cutter cuts so much nicer than the square one. The square one is better for roughing. come in here. Turn this down just a little. Want just a little flare on the top. See a lot of streamers like that. Just a little acid brush. Get rid of the streamers. Better than grabbing them with your fingers. Obviously, when you get into the middle here, you got to be careful that you don't get too small. That's a 1-inch hole in there. You don't want to. Obviously, you don't want to blow it apart or cut into the glass. They just make it look like it's got a little flare in the top. All I'm looking for. A little flare in the bottom, maybe. Speed is your friend with acrylic. Likes to go fast. Smoother cuts out of it. Even when you're doing pens, turn them as fast as you're comfortable. And that's the outside. Nothing fancy, just a little bit of a flare. Clean this up a little bit when we go to finish it. Now I'm going to slide my headstock away. I'm going to take it off temporarily. Little ball up here. I'm just going to take this, just like this. And we're just going to finish off the end and just thin it out at the top, just ever so slightly. That laid a little better. I rounded this corner a little bit. You can pick that up with some sandpaper when you're done. Tool heights here, come up just a little. So this is Easy Wood's bowl hollower. And that's all I'm going to use just to flare this top to make it comfortable to drink out of. I'm not going to go down in there too far. You're just kind of making it appear that it's not so thick. Light cuts now. You're riding just on that 3/8 bolt. Just going to slowly work your way in there. Tool off control. Canting this tool just ever so slightly. You can see that I'm getting a little vibration because it's hanging out so far. Tool rest just as full. It'll help a little. bit more out of there, we'll have it done bottle stop. Or at least cutting wise. Any questions so far?
No, nothing so far. Everybody's waiting till you're done, I think.
Okay. So basically, that's the rough shape. Now it's just a matter of finishing it up, sanding it out. Make sure you get your chips out of there. So I built some little sanding sticks for the demo. A lot of times I use my finger, but I know that that's not the safest way of doing it. So I built myself some little sanding sticks. We'll see how they work. I'm going to sand this at about 400, between 400 and 500. I'm starting out with 220 grit, just to take any tool marks out. The drill doesn't leave you much for tool marks, so it leaves pretty smooth finish. And you really can't see the inside that well anyways. Unless it's a real transparent blank, then you might be able to see the inside. That's 220. A little piece of paper towel, shut this off. Make sure I got any grit out of there. It might have got stuck in the bottom. I'm going to do 320. Gotta get used to this speed controller. I'm just going to sand the inside again more. Keep it out. Switch to 400.
That's a safe way to do it. You can make larger ones like that for larger hollow forms as well, or boxes.
Yep. Just make sure when you go between grits so that you're wiped out the inside, because it likes to build up in the bottom. I'm just going to take a piece of sanding screen, which is 600, and that'll be the last step for the inside. I'm just going to sand the inside with 600. The screen's nice because it doesn't clog up like sandpaper. You can knock it free. Blow it out with an air hose. Normally I'd be wearing a respirator for this. If You wouldn't be able to hear me talk then. Okay. Now I'm gonna do a little plastic polish on the inside, just to give it a little shine. And smear it around in there with the paper towel. And this stick doesn't have anything on the end. Put a drop more of that in there. Now I'm going to spin it up to about 1,000 RPMs to polish. And that's, the inside is now done. It's nice and smooth. See if I can set the camera where you can kind of see in there. So it's pretty smooth in there. There may be one or two small ridges in there. I can barely feel them, but you can't see them. And sometimes it's the resin. This coloration, the white stripe in this resin, sometimes will give you that effect that it feels like there's a lump in there, but there really isn't, because as soon as you get away from that white streak or that other colored resin, it goes away. So now we'll polish the outside quick. Let's start with 220 again. So when I do the outside, I'm going to put my back on. Bring this back up, move this out of the way here. Just to give it a little support while I'm polishing. I don't want to break that off. Now that you got it almost done, you're ashamed to break it.
Sure would.
So
It's a pretty collar.
So I have a fan that's up behind me on the wall up there. It blows the dust away from me when I do this. So even when I got a mask on, I'm blowing the dust towards the camera. You guys will be able to see that. And I do that with everything. That's why that fan's mounted where it's mounted. It also helps when you have my dust collector chute up here. It blows it into that chute. Now I'm just going to sand this off to make it smooth. You don't have to go crazy nuts with the speed on this either. You can see how fast it fills the sandpaper. Right around 500 RPM, plus or minus. Turn around this corner off a little bit. Make it smooth. You can also polish the bottom here a little bit when you're doing this. Nothing more boring than sanding, but hard to show you the finish without doing this part. I'm going to speed it up again, a little faster this time. The biggest thing about when you're sanding this now is you don't want it to get hot. If it starts to get hot, you're melting it, and that's not good. You'll never get the scratches out of it once you start melting it. And that's why I use my finger on the bottom. I can feel it through the sandpaper when it starts to get warm. I either move the sandpaper or stop. Pull the sandpaper away and let it cool down quickly. 20. Give the weight down. Looks like it's got scratches in it, but it really doesn't. I'm going to do some 320. The other nice thing about this foam ball being on here, you can rub your fingers on it and it's not going to hurt you. Doesn't burn. I need a piece of 400. Again. If you notice those two white lines I had up here when I first touched this, melted the resin. What this resin is on here actually got hot and made a streak. You got to be careful when you do that. It'll come back off, but it does leave a line in there. Ridge of melted plastic. Like to do it right there where the transition is. Give it a wipe again. Now we're just gonna give it a little cross sanding. This is 600 Avernet, I guess you would call it. One of the brand names. Now we'll come back with the car polish.
You bumped your camera out of the way, Scott.
Sorry. Here we go. Is that better?
Yes.
I've been using it brand of polish for years. I love it.
Well, I started out using McGuire's 105 car polish, and it's a little grittier. It has a little more cutting action. So if this had some pretty deep scratches yet at this point after 600, I'd use the 105, and then I would go to this for my finish. This is, I don't know what's in it, but doesn't have much granulation to it. It's pretty thin. Doesn't cut really, it polishes. It's made for cleaning headlights on cars, I believe. What they really sell it for. Now I'm going to turn this up to 1,000 again and buff this off. You can see the instant shine right off the bat. And this is just regular paper towel, bounty paper towel. You can make these as shiny as you want. Personal preference.
Me like shiny.
That's pretty shiny.
Sure
It used
is.
to go all the way through the different grits, like the micro polish stuff. And since I started using this plastic polish from McGuire's, I don't even do that anymore. I don't wet sand them anymore. It's just so much faster and easier just to do it like this.
Less mess too.
That is good.
A lot less mess.
Way less mess.
So now I'm just going to unscrew this. I'll just clean that off with some alcohol or mineral spirits later to get the glue off. Let's talk about bottle stoppers for a minute. Find the other one. So when you're doing whiskey bottles, get my little white table. Believe it or not, there are different size throats in whiskey bottles.
Yep.
So this is a standard screw top bottle. This would be like not a premium whiskey, but like a middle grade whiskey that would have a cork. And then this is a top shelf whiskey like Scotch or some
Pull it back
imported
towards
whiskey.
Pull it back towards you.
How's that?
There we go.
So this is the standard size, the screw top bottle. This would be the next shelf above that. It may have a cork, it may not, but usually they do have a cork. And these would be like your Scotch bottles. Imported Scotch, your very expensive, like your $50 to $100 bottles of premium. So they're different sizes. So when you order these from Ruth Niles, they're different. The numbers are different. So 10 is the smallest and 30 is the biggest. So it goes 10, 20, 30. So I just stock them however, and usually have a bottle. If I'm selling these at a show, I have the 3 different size bottles there so people can see what size bottles they may or may not fit in. And I usually give them a card. And if they get home and it doesn't fit their bottle, I make arrangements for them to either ship me the stopper back and I ship them the new one, or if they're local, I'll hand deliver it.
As an example, the lower grade would be a Southern Comfort or Yukon Jack bottle. The middle one would be a Jack Daniels, and the top one would be a McKellen or a
Black label, 30-year-old black label.
Yeah.
So, and then just to put it on, just, I'll use the one that's already out of the package.
So we're talking about good scotch.
Right. And by insetting that just a little bit, you know that that's going to screw on tight. And actually, that one you can't even see the crud that I had on the bottom. It disappeared when I put the base on it. And I think this is a 20. So that's my demo. Any questions?
Just
Floor
an
is
awesome
open,
job,
folks.
man.
Anyone
Thanks
have
for
any
sharing.
questions?
Oh, Leonard wants to see you test it. Let's go for
I have some Everclear in the shop, but I'm not going to drink it.
it.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't either.
use Everclear to make my shellac.
Are you going to SWAT?
I wish I was, Dean. I really do. Hopefully next year. This is my first year on retirement, so I'm getting used to getting paid once a month.
Boy, can I relate to that one.
And I tell you, that's quite a change when you're used to getting a bi-weekly paycheck, and now you only get one at the first of the month.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's taken me about a year to get used to having bills paid on time or when they should be paid. So
Scott,
this
you
is
did
the
a
fourth.
fantastic job.
This is the fourth piece made on this lathe. So, and I'm loving the speed control. I love my
Spend more time down there.
I love my Mini, but this new lathe, being able to speed stuff up and slow it down, is fantastic.
It is. It's a game changer, isn't it?
Sure is.
Well, Scott, you did really good because you and he is your enemy when you're playing with that plastic. And you did very well explaining that from the drill bit. And I'm glad you said that drill bit will never touch anything else except that resin. It's not, didn't go back into the drawer where you might be able to tomorrow drill out a fence post with it. It is reserved. And if you don't want to work your butt off, that's what you will do. And the polishing, good idea. I got away from using all those little wet, scrubby things a long time ago when I found that polish, because I can go to 600 and polish the heck out of it, and I am very happy with the finish. Where you are right now, you're happy with that finish, and you didn't spend a ton of time. You didn't have to wet sand it, and you came up with something that's, if you were selling those pieces, looking at the time involved in what you generate, that became reasonable. You taught us how to do it, and you turned that out in a very good amount of time. Now, I think that was a fantastic demonstration, very detailed, very detailed.
Scott, can you hold the bottle of McGuire's up? There's a couple questions asking what it was. So it's an opportunity for you to screenshot the screen when he holds this up. So it's McGuire's Plastics.
It's available at Riley's Auto Parts and that one that got the big orange stuff on the side of it. Auto Parts place.
I'm sure Vance has it too.
AutoZone.
AutoZone. Advanced Parts.
And you can get it at Harbor Freight, believe it or not, because that's where I bought this bottle.
And it's even available on Amazon.
Yeah.
But you'll pay more for it at Amazon.
Yep. You'll pay more for it in the auto parts store than you will at Harbor Freight too, by the way.
I paid $7 for it over at Walmart.
Yeah, and you can get it at Walmart too. They have it at Walmart too.
Yeah, good stuff. That's what I use as well, Scott.
But think about how much you use, folks. That will go a long way. Because we're talking drops.
I'm only using about a pea-sized drop is all I'm using.
Yeah. And it works great. And you use it with paper towel. I'm glad he said that, paper towel. The only rags that come to my lathe are on my back.
So
Then if I want to,
just what,
then if I want to polish even higher, I'll ditch after I'm done with the paper towel, I'll just put the wax on my finger and use my finger and the wax against the acrylic for a even finer finish, because there is no abrasive action coming from your skin where there is coming from the paper towel, which is around 800 to 1,000.
right?
And,
Keep
and
in
then so
mind-
there is a question, Kelly, Scott, about what lathe you have. If you could talk about that briefly.
So I bought a 1640 this spring. It's got a 16-inch swing,
It's
40-inch
a
bed without the extension.
A jet, right?
It's a jet.
Yes.
Yep, 1640 jet, and it's super quiet. I don't know if you guys could even hear it when it was running.
No, you couldn't hear it.
So one more thing I want to talk about before I stop for the night. Ruth Niles does sell these little bushings that are for the bottle stoppers, for the whiskey bottle stoppers. So you get the right, if you wanted to turn them right down so they match exactly the size of the stopper. So they come with the part of the kit that you can order from Carl Jacobson now, I guess. He still runs it under Ruth Niles' name because I just ordered some stuff and that's how it came. Same with the inserts. I ordered my inserts from him, and he has stainless steel ones and he has brass ones. The brass ones are through, drilled all the way through. Like this. They got a through hole instead of a dead man hole. So if you wanted to use them for, I bought these for ice cream scoops and things like that. So because they have a longer shank than a bottle stopper usually. So just some other tidbits for
Good
you.
info. Good info.
That's all I really have, unless there's more questions.
All right. Anybody else got anything? Going once, going twice? No, we're going back to our fearless leader, Eddie.